Title: The CEO Nobody Saw Coming. Hey, Four Eyes, yeah, you. Bradley Thompson's voice was laced with mockery as he glared at the newest hire in the room. If you're already asking about breaks on day one, maybe this isn't the place for you. We work hard here. You want easy hours and comfy union perks? Try the post office. The room fell uncomfortably silent. Around 20 fresh hires sat in rigid plastic chairs, shifting awkwardly. The man in second-hand clothes and thick glasses didn't respond. He simply gave a small nod, his face burning with quiet humiliation and suppressed fury. Bradley wasn't done. His eyes swept across the room and landed on a few of the black workers seated near the back. "I don't care where you come from or what excuses you're used to making," he sneered. "If you think you can coast by doing the bare minimum, think again. I'm watching, always watching." What Bradley didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that the man he just tried to humiliate wasn't just another desperate applicant named Terrell Washington. He was Damon Sterling, billionaire founder and CEO of Sterling Global Logistics, the very company this warehouse belonged to. And in just 3 weeks, Bradley's entire world would be flipped upside down. But before we dive deeper into this incredible story of justice, transformation, and corporate awakening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop the word justice in the comments if you believe every worker deserves dignity, no matter their role. We read every single one. Earlier that day, Damon stood in front of a cracked mirror in a modest guest bathroom, barely recognizing the man staring back. The clean-cut executive with the tailored suits and immaculate goatee was gone. In his place stood a scruffy, weathered figure with an unkempt beard, thick glasses, and a faded State University t-shirt that smelled like a thrift shop shelf. "Who are you kidding, man?" he muttered to himself, adjusting the glasses. This wasn't just a disguise. Damon Sterling had transformed into Terrell Washington, a laid-off warehouse worker from Memphis with a spotty job history and a desperate need for income. He hadn't made this choice lightly. Over the past few months, Damon had been losing sleep, not from market forecasts or boardroom battles, but from a string of anonymous emails. The messages painted a dark picture of racial bias, wage theft, and abuse at the company's flagship distribution center in Atlanta. His executives had brushed them off as baseless complaints. Some even suggested hiring consultants to manage the optics. But Damon knew better. He'd seen enough corporate PR spin and to know that investigations only buried the truth deeper. If something rotten was festering inside his company, he needed to see it with his own eyes. No bodyguards, no name tags, just raw, unfiltered reality. That morning, he traded his sleek Porsche for a dented 2012 Chevy Malibu. As he pulled into the employee lot of the towering Sterling facility, he felt a surreal wave wash over him. He'd entered this building dozens of times, always through the executive entrance, always greeted with forced smiles and handshakes. Today, he walked with the workers. Shoulders hunched, lunch thermos in hand, he joined the silent parade through the employee doors. "Terrell Washington?" a sharp voice called out. He turned to see a woman with a clipboard approach. Jessica Rodriguez, HR coordinator, according to her badge. Her smile was polite but hollow. "Orientation starts in 5 minutes. Bradley hates when people are late." As she led him through the warehouse, Damon's experienced eyes caught red flags everywhere. Missing safety barriers, forklift operators without reflective vests, corners cut at every turn. He had personally signed off on a $4 million safety upgrade for this very facility. Where had that money gone? The orientation room was cramped, poorly ventilated, and smelled faintly of mildew. 24 new hires sat on cheap chairs, looking as tense as Damon felt, but for entirely different reasons. 15 minutes later, Bradley stormed in, scowling. He was a heavy-set man in his 50s, with thinning hair and a permanent expression of disdain, like someone who took pride in wielding whatever little power he had. "Welcome to your first day in purgatory," he growled. "I'm not your buddy. I'm not your babysitter. You're here to work. If you can't keep up, there's 100 people lined up outside who'd love your spot." Damon raised his hand, playing the part. "The job listing mentioned regular breaks and time and a half for overtime?" Bradley let out a harsh laugh. "Listen here, Four Eyes," he snapped. "If you're already whining about breaks, This ain't the place for you." The room fell quiet again. No one spoke up. No one dared. Damon's face flushed, not just with embarrassment, but with anger. This wasn't the culture he built. This wasn't the legacy he wanted to leave behind. Bradley's gaze swept back toward the black employees in the room, including Damon. "I don't care what you're used to. In here, you work hard or you're gone. Some of y'all think you can get by doing the bare minimum. Well, I'm always watching." The rest of the day only confirmed Damon's worst fears. Training consisted of being dumped onto the loading dock with little instruction. His assigned mentor, a bulky man named Chuck Wilson, mocked him loudly for asking questions. "Hey, everybody, check out Professor Washington over here." The warehouse laughed, but the real lesson hadn't even started yet. Chuck's voice rang out across the loading dock as Damon fumbled with the pallet jack controls. "Maybe you should have stayed in school instead of trying to do real work," he jeered. Laughter erupted from nearby workers. It hit harder than Damon expected. He hadn't felt this powerless in decades. Dismissed, mocked, underestimated before he could even prove himself. During lunch, an unceremonious 18 minutes rather than the legally required 30, Damon overheard a conversation that froze his blood. Two supervisors were discussing discrepancies in employee time cards. "Just dock the time," one said carelessly. "They never check their pay stubs anyway. Too lazy or too stupid." When they noticed him listening, the taller one, Steve Patterson, according to his badge, walked over. "You got a hearing problem, Washington?" he asked, leaning in. His breath reeked of energy drinks and stale cigarettes. "Here's some friendly advice. Mind your own business if you want to stick around. Some questions ain't worth asking, if you know what I mean." The threat was casual but unmistakable. Damon nodded silently, but inside his thoughts were racing. These weren't isolated incidents. There was a pattern here, a culture of fear, exploitation, and quiet cruelty. By the end of his first week, Damon had witnessed more abuse than he thought possible. He saw Kesha, a young black mother, collapse from exhaustion after being denied her break. When she begged for a few minutes to sit down, Bradley sneered. "If you can't handle the job, there's the door. Plenty of people would kill for this chance." Damon helped her to the break room and got slapped with a written warning for time theft. As she eased into the chair, Kesha whispered, "Don't worry about me. I need this job. My kids need it." The weariness in her voice crushed him. The racial disparities became impossible to ignore. Black and Latino workers were regularly assigned the most grueling tasks, received the shortest breaks, and faced the harshest punishments for minor mistakes. Meanwhile, white employees, often relatives of supervisors, skated by with minimal scrutiny. In his second week, Damon uncovered just how deep the wage theft went. He overheard Bradley bragging to Steve near the vending machines. "These idiots don't even look at their overtime logs," Bradley chuckled. "We've been trimming hours for months. Easiest side hustle I've ever had." Damon felt sick. The company was paying out millions in overtime, but workers were receiving only a fraction of what they'd earned. Then came the day he was assigned to the high-value electronics section, where merchandise worth millions was stored. The supervisor, Derek Cole, seemed to relish making Damon's life miserable. "Washington," Cole barked. "These iPads need logging and moving. You've got 20 minutes. Damon hesitated. "Company policy requires 2 workers for high-value inventory." Cole's expression darkened. "Look at Mr. Safety Expert," he sneered, snatching the clipboard from Damon's hands and tossing it to the floor. 15 minutes now. Clock's ticking, college boy." As Damon scrambled, he noticed something disturbing. The inventory count didn't match the records. There were supposed to be 200 tablets. He counted only 165. He tried to report it. Cole shoved him against a shelf. "You accusing me of stealing?" he growled. "Because if it's your word against mine, guess who's walking out the door?" Damon saw it in Cole's eyes. The man enjoyed breaking people, especially people like him. After a brutal 12-hour shift, Damon sat in the break room beside Robert, a black worker who'd been with the company for 6 years. "You know what the worst part is?" Robert muttered, his hands trembling as he cracked open an energy drink. 3 years ago, this place wasn't half bad. Fair pay, good treatment, decent leadership. Then the new management came in. Now we're just numbers. Disposable. Damon felt the shame settle like concrete. He was that new management. He'd brought in consultants to streamline operations, trusting they'd maintain company values. Instead, they'd created a corporate sweatshop hiding behind polished glass and marketing slogans. The breaking point came during Damon's third week. Angela, a black woman in her 50s, had developed severe back issues from constant lifting. Her doctor gave her a note recommending light duty. Bradley's response echoed across the warehouse. Light duty? What do you think this is? A retirement home? Do the job or find another one. Your call, Grandma. Angela blinked back tears and went back to her station. Damon watched her wince in pain with every lift, until she finally collapsed, clutching her back and crying out. Bradley's only order? Call her family. She's not allowed back without a note saying she can do all job functions. As paramedics loaded Angela onto a stretcher, Damon overheard two white supervisors near the dock. Another one bites the dust, one snickered. Why do they always try to milk the system? Just do the job until you can't, then quit. That night, Damon sat in his penthouse, surrounded by notes, memories, and a deep, suffocating fury. He had built this company to empower, not exploit. Now it was hurting the very people it was meant to help. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You're asking too many questions, Washington. Accidents happen in warehouses all the time. Back off. It wasn't fear that settled in Damon's chest. It was resolve. The next morning, Terrell Washington walked into the warehouse one final time. But this time, he wasn't alone. At 9 a.m. sharp, a fleet of black SUVs pulled up outside. Out stepped agents from the Department of Labor, the EEOC, and Damon's personal legal team. Security followed close behind. Inside, Bradley was mid-rant, berating a young Latino worker for moving too slow when the main doors opened wide. And in walked Damon Sterling, goatee-trimmed, suit sharp, presence unmistakable. The warehouse fell into a stunned silence. Machines whirred to a stop. Conversations halted. Every worker turned to the man now standing at the entrance, no longer wearing a thrift store jacket or worn boots, but a sharp charcoal gray suit and polished shoes. Bradley froze mid-sentence, his expression morphing from confusion to dread. Good morning, the man said, his voice firm and clear. For those who don't know me, I'm Damon Sterling, CEO and founder of Sterling Global Logistics. For the past 3 weeks, I've been working alongside you under the name Terrell Washington. Gas rippled through the crowd. Some workers exchanged bewildered glances. Others stared in disbelief. But on more than a few faces, Damon saw something else. Hope. Bradley stepped forward, his face flushed with panic. Sir, I don't know what you think you've seen, but I assure you, I've been managing this facility by the book. If there were any issues, they were isolated incidents. Isolated incidents? Damon's tone turned razor sharp. Bradley, in 3 weeks, I witnessed wage theft, safety violations, racial discrimination, and a culture of abuse that would shame a prison yard. He turned to the workers. I came here after receiving reports of systemic mistreatment. I regret to say those reports didn't go far enough. At that moment, federal agents from the Department of Labor and the EEOC moved through the facility, clipboard in hand, beginning their investigations. Bradley tried one last time. Mr. Sterling, you have to understand. These people, Damon cut him off, stepping in close. These people are the backbone of this company, and you treated them like they were disposable. You stole their wages, violated their rights, and humiliated them. He raised his voice for all to hear. Bradley Thompson, Derek Cole, Steve Patterson, Chuck Wilson, you're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you off the premises, and I strongly suggest you speak to your attorneys, because the federal government will definitely want a word. As the disgraced supervisors were led away, Damon turned back to the workers. To the rest of you, I owe you an apology. I created this company to provide good jobs and opportunities. Somewhere along the way, I lost sight of that, but no more. He gestured toward the agents and lawyers behind him. Starting today, every violation will be documented. Every stolen wage will be repaid. Every worker will be treated with the respect they deserve. And if anyone dares retaliate against you for cooperating, they'll answer to me personally. A timid voice rose from the crowd. Kesha, Mr. Sterling, what about Angela? They wouldn't even help her. Damon's face softened. Angela's medical bills are covered, and she'll receive full pay while she recovers. When she returns, it will be to a job that honors her experience and protects her safety. As the day unfolded, investigators listened to workers' stories. Some horrific, some heartbreaking, but all revealing. Racial slurs, sexual harassment, stolen overtime, safety ignored. Yet amid the pain, Damon heard stories of resilience. Workers lifting each other up, protecting one another, refusing to let their spirits break. Those stories reminded Damon of why he had started Sterling Global in the first place. 6 months later, the Atlanta warehouse was transformed, not just in appearance, though it now had better lighting, ergonomic workstations and new break rooms, but in spirit. Kesha had been appointed the site's first employee advocate, ensuring that worker concerns were heard and addressed. Robert, once a silent veteran of the floor, now led new employee training, mentoring recruits with dignity and experience. Angela had returned, not to packaging, but as the safety coordinator, shaping policies to protect every worker. Productivity soared by 40%. But that wasn't the real success. The real victory was in the faces. Faces that no longer showed fear, but pride. Damon now visited the warehouse once a month, not in a suit, but in work gear. It was company policy now. Every executive must spend one day each quarter on the floor, a reminder of who they served. At the 6-month anniversary, workers surprised Damon with a framed photo. Terrell Washington, his undercover self, standing with the team on the loading dock. Beneath it, a plaque read, "To the boss who walked in our shoes and chose to change the path." Damon stood before them, eyes misty. "A year ago," he said, "I thought I came here to save this company. But you saved me. You showed me what real strength looks like. Not profit margins, but integrity. Not efficiency, but courage. The courage to stand together and demand better." The warehouse erupted in applause. "But this isn't the end," Damon added. "It's just the beginning. We're going to prove a company can be profitable and ethical. That success doesn't have to come at the cost of our humanity. Every worker, no matter their race, background, or story, deserves a fair shot." As the sun set over Atlanta, casting golden light through the loading dock doors, Damon looked around at a place reborn. On a shelf in his office sat the thrift store clothes and old glasses he wore as Terrell, a symbol of the journey. Because sometimes, to find what matters most, you have to lose who you were. And Damon Sterling had never been more sure of who he was. The transformation was complete, but the mission had only just begun.